Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO, TED Talks, Devoted Talks, depending on how you want to say it, where we take ancient wisdom and practices and put it through a modern lens and experience to help end suffering for you and maybe, hopefully, the ones you love. Oh man, it is New Year's Eve. This will be posted much later, but um, I think it's a good reminder. Like, I kind of like the lag that this offers when you go out there because it's good to remember what things were like at a different point or a different time. And so I actually, admittedly, have been not avoiding work, but just taking it a lot more easily. I know that once New Year's passes and then we hit next Monday, things are going to get a lot more hectic because the routines are going to be starting back up, right? The holidays, I call it holidays, DAZE. And it gets that way. It's just a bit of a mix and match and up and down and left and right and all the things. And it's beautiful, but it's also very draining and it's also full of potential. And, I frequently do what I think they nowadays go by the term Dharma talks, which I don't like because people usually don't pronounce Dharma right. It's Dharma. But anyway, um, in these talks, I say things and I genuinely draw them forward. Some might say channeling, some might say, downloads, whatever you want to call it. It just, it comes through me and it has impacts and it's a beautiful thing. And I love it. But somebody reflected it back to me because apparently I just didn't even hear what I said. I didn't take it or absorb it or integrate it. And I'm always hoping that I do integrate. That's my greatest intention always, is that I integrate the things that I'm able to bring forth for the benefit of the people in the class. Same like these uh, TED Talks that I do, because, I need the information just as much as anybody else. But that being said, um, this time of year can be crazy and busy and challenging and hard and devastating. And it also could be amazing and awesome and beautiful. But what it does contain is a little bit more space and magic. And, the greatest thing that we can do with that is to know that we did our best. And that's good. I heard an affirmation yesterday and it about took me out at the knees, tears welling up and stuff. I was driving, so I had to be a little bit dialed in, but it was, I am who I am, and that is enough. And it's just this powerful thing. And it repeated 3 times. And it just was this like, oh, yeah, what happened during the holidays. And what I did was enough. And that goes for all of life, really, but it's even more prominent now because these are supposed to be the happy times. These are supposed to be the joyous times. Some of us who have lost loved ones that are very important to us, this time of year can be very hard, whereas other people, it's like the pinnacle. I mean, I was a bit devastated for my friends. I didn't know the kid that well, but they lost their son on Christmas. Like, he passed away. I think he had some kind of medical emergency. He did have a chronic thing that was going on with him, but it was just like, wow, anybody could have died on Christmas Day. Anybody that I know of. Like, why this Christmas and why that day and why? And there's no words when that happens. Somebody came in here on Monday and their mom is, the words of death and not eating and like her being done or floating around the family. And I was like, man, it's heavy. But some people are having the greatest year of their life and some people are having the greatest experiences of their life. And, who's to say that they can't and that they shouldn't, right? We all kind of fluctuate through life in all of its experiences and all of its iterations. And each one of those is good. But the real question, the real yoga, the real Ayurveda is it enough for you to have done what you can? And know that in any given moment, you really have done all that you can. You being lazy isn't a signal of you not achieving some like essence of being, or, productivity. You quote unquote being lazy is the best you could do at that moment, right? There's perhaps not something in your life motivating or inspiring you enough to get up. And so your default in that moment is to sit or to rest or to watch movies or to binge. Like we constantly look at these things as default settings that we're doing. And it's like, well, no, it's not, because then everybody would do that, right? Like we either think people are lazy or they're not. And if we look at these people's different life situations, they have different they have different gut fires that are pushing them. Let me get center on this. I'm trying to explain it and be generous to things and people and respectful. And it's not that I would be disrespectful, it's that I'm just overthinking it. Look, if you look at people's lives, most people are not different. When I have interacted with the rich and when I've interacted with people who are, affluent and well-to-do, they are not any different. There are trailer park like people that just have a lot of fucking money and they still hang out at rich places, but they're like trailer park people. And I mean no disrespect to trailer park people, but there's a different mentality, right? We have the human experience, and there's not an infinite number of iterations, and yet there's only so many human experiences, there's only so many human emotions, and how they all come together is what is unique, and their unique alignments are what is special. And so being able to get out of this misnomer that we're lazy, or misidentification, or resonating with lazy, where nobody's lazy. There's just not something that is stimulating them to the point that they are, all in with it. And maybe it's because they never learned how, but then that goes back to the never learning how. And all it takes is not learning how, but finding something that causes them to be that way, right? It's like you don't know how to drive a car because you've never driven a car. But once you drive a car, you learn how to drive. Ta-da! Similarly, motivation, inspiration, and success is something you start doing. And one of the hardest things we do as humans is this constant degradation of achievements and accomplishments. Like this need for more always. That is part of the human condition. Living is an act of consumption. It's in one of my favorite movies, Jupiter Ascending. And while it is an act of consumption, you don't have to consume more than you need, although a lot of people do. And people who don't have a lot are like, well, why don't the people who consume a lot provide their fair share in the greater pie? Because there are some people who don't want or don't need more. And that's okay too. So how do we square this? How do we bring this around? And the answer is slowly and steadily, with the acknowledgement that I am who I am, and that is enough. I did what I did, and that was my best. And if it wasn't my best, I can only say that now because I have now got a new best, because I'm not that person who's reviewing what I did back then. But in that moment, if you could have done better, you would have done better, but you wouldn't know the difference. It's one of my favorite lines. And the only reason you can know the difference now is because you're a different person, and this different person now has better as an option. But prior to that, you didn't. Take that for what you will. So, you're not flexible because you don't think you're flexible. You're not flexible because you don't do flexible things. You're not starting the process. But the process in and of itself isn't necessarily that thing, right? Flexible doesn't happen because you do flexible things. Flexible happens because you are not restricting flexibility. You're not stopping it before it happens. If we're taking it back to that analogy of driving a car, you're not stopping yourself from getting in the car. You're getting in the car and driving. And in that driving, you are learning how to do it. Right? I grew up in the age where we had video games and there wasn't instructions. Like you picked it up and you played and you figured it out. Can you do that with your life? Because I bet if you do, you would learn how to be well and be free.